I'm really grateful for you all to be joining us today at a time where digital is playing such a fundamental and massive part in all of our lives. And our relationship with technology has never been closer, really. And since the pandemic, this is likely to continue, which makes events like today all the more valuable, and sharing knowledge all the more valuable. Right, I've got some crib notes beside me here for chairing, so I'll try and go through some housekeeping. Throughout the session, there will be a link posted in the chat box to a Menti poll. So please take part in that Menti poll if you can. It's interesting for us to get your feedback, to try and be as interactive as we can, especially for us to get some kind of takeaways you're getting from today's session. Anybody who requires subtitles, there's captioning available. So if you look at the bottom of your screen with a live transcript, if you click on that button and click on show subtitles, you can get the live subtitles and transcript of the session. And the session will be recorded, as you've probably seen a pop-up already come up on your window. We'll be recording the session and it will be published on our YouTube channel at a later date. There's not going to be any simultaneous translation in the Welsh language today, but I'm happy to take any questions in the chat box that you have. If anybody wants to put a question in Welsh, rwy'n hapus I drafod a siarad gyda'r Gymraeg gyda unrhyw un sy'n moyn. So please post any questions you have as the sessions is delivered into the chat box, and we'll try and list those questions and try and get through as many of those as we can at the end of the presentations. So a brief overview before I hand over to our speakers. Very, very fortunate today to be joined by team members of the Digital Accessibility Centre, Gavin Evans and Mike Taylor. They are specialists in online digital accessibility, and we're very grateful to have them on board and thank them for agreeing to present to us today. They are also going to be joined by Tammy Butler and Peter Johnson from the Lloyds Banking Group. And together they've been working on accessibility support for Lloyds. And again, that'll be covered within their presentation. So that's going to be an interesting kind of live case study. So just a reminder that at the end, we will go through the questions in the chat box. So don't, feel free to post your questions in the chat. And if you have any kind of audience stories or any challenges you might be facing, again, put those in the chat and the questions, and we can put them to Gavin and the team at the end. Okay. Without any further ado, then I'll hand over to Gavin of the Digital Accessibility Centre and look forward to hearing what they have to say. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mark. I'm just going to share my screen and start the actual presentation. So yeah, thanks for that, Mark. So my name is Gavin Evans and I'm the Operations Director at the Digital Accessibility Centre. And today I'm just going to take you through some areas of accessibility, namely a bit of an introduction to the Digital Accessibility Centre, or DAC, or DAC, as we're usually known, and also a bit of an overview of your legal requirements with regards to digital accessibility, and also a little bit of an overview of the W3C's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and also an introduction to the different types of disability that you need to take into consideration when assessing an application or your website, and also the assistive technologies that an individual may use when accessing a digital interface. So about the DAC, it was actually co-founded by myself and the other director, Cam Nicol, back about around about 10 years, just over 10 years ago now, actually. And we've got about 62 staff now, actually. And many of those are technical auditors, user testers, and we operate on a 100% not-for-profit basis. We're actually based in Llandarcy in South Wales, as you can probably tell from the accent. And we're also a Living Wage Foundation accredited employer as well. The majority of our team have some form of impairment or a disability as well, which gives them, a crucial area or experience when assessing an application for digital accessibility. And also with regards to the platforms that we test, it's ranging from anything from native mobile applications, from iOS to Android, along with websites, intranets, and also non-HTML documents such as PDFs as well. So what is digital accessibility? So it's about ensuring that all web-based applications are accessible to everyone, regardless of ability and or age. And that includes somebody that may be colorblind, somebody that may be dyslexic, somebody that may be partially sighted or have low vision, somebody that may be blind, somebody may be deaf and hard of hearing, somebody that may have a physical disability, or somebody that may have a cognitively challenged or a learning disability as well. So the guidelines that we focus on within the W3C are just ensuring that all of these user groups are actually catered for when designing an application for accessibility, or taking that into consideration when developing a platform or a website. So why should your content be accessible? So it's not just about users that may have a disability, but it's also about the aging population as well. So for example, the aging population probably have around about 12 million users within the UK alone that are classed as silver surfers. So it's not just about users with disabilities, but what we find is that if you make your website accessible, then you're more or less making your website accessible to everyone, and providing giving them a much easier experience for everyone to use. It's also about gaining positive PR, both internally and externally. And it could be the fact that you've got a staff member that internally that may use an email system or a HR system. So it's about implementing those best practices internally as well for your staff members. It's not just about when providing goods and services through a website, for example. So it's taking that into consideration internally as well. It's also to avoid legal action under the Equality Act 2010 that we have in the UK, and also in Northern Ireland that we have the DDA, which is the Disability Discrimination Act, and also to comply with the Public Sector Body Accessibility Regulations 2018, if you are a public sector body as well. So some statistics that have come from the Family Resources Survey 2019-2020, around about 14 million people have reported a disability, but on average, around about 22% of those users have some form of disability within the UK. And we noticed that, you could see that on the graph here, it shows a graph that shows 46% of state pension age adults have reported some form of disability. And that's because as you get older, you probably have some form of ailments, or may have some sort of ailment such as eyesight or short-term memory as well as you get older, or develop some form of limited limb mobility, maybe that with arthritis, for example, as you get older. So that's why that percentage is actually a lot higher for state pension age adults. But on average, you're probably looking around about the 20% mark. So if you have an e-commerce application, or if you have an application that you're selling a service, those that would benefit by considering accessibility into development and build or design of an application, you're going to impact on 20% of that population. So with regards to the legislation, there's a few things to take into consideration. I mentioned the W3C's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, and also the Public Sector Body Accessibility Regulations 2018, and also the Equality Act as well. So with regards to the Equality Act Equality Act is law within the UK, and that actually forms part 2 and part 3 of the Equality Act, which was formerly the DDA, and that's internal employment law as well as external facing goods and services. Similarly, we've got the under the legislation.gov.uk, we've got public sector body website and mobile applications accessibility regulations 2018, and basically this covers all public sector and government organisations within the UK, and there's several different deadline dates that have actually come and gone for certain websites. But also for mobile applications as well that it would apply to. And actually the most recent one, it came into force in September 2018, and there's certain deadline dates for websites, existing websites, new websites, and also intranets that need to be made accessible. Mobile applications have actually got until June the 22nd this year to actually comply with that as well. So if you're a public sector body and you're developing a mobile application or a mobile offering, then that needs to be taken into consideration as well. And one of the key things that it does actually state, along with the public sector body applications regulations, sorry, is the fact that you must comply with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 to AA standard. And basically, your requirements are to, first of all, understand the regulations. So if you're developing a mobile application, or if you're developing a website or an intranet, it's how you apply those guidelines and to take those into consideration. And then you've got to decide how to check your website or app for accessibility problems, which could be, you could internally check that. You could involve a third party like ourselves when assessing an application as well. But that does all come down to budget within the organization. Now, I know that these requirements here that I've listed come from on a public sector level, but this approach is actually a really good approach for all organizations to take into consideration, whether you're third sector, whether you're public sector, whether you're a private sector. Because after you check your website, you need to make a plan to fix accessibility problems you find. And then one of the key things that it states within the public sector regulations is to publish an accessibility statement. And this accessibility statement is something that could be on your website. There's a web page that states how you've gone about assessing an application, what you've taken into consideration, and also the help, advice, and guidance that you may give to an individual if there's a limitation, basically, on your web page or mobile application. So the accessibility statement is key, I think, to make sure that's a good starting point. And if you go on to gov.uk, they've got an accessibility template that's available for you to follow as well, which is it's just really good accessibility statement template to follow, basically. Now, if you've got a mobile application and you want to publish an accessibility statement on there, that's fine, you can do that. But however, the statement template on gov.uk is quite large. So you could provide like a more cut down version on the accessibility statement on your mobile application, but then direct an individual to the larger published statement on a web page, for example, of an organization. So that's an alternative method there as well. So with regards to W3C's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, just to give you a high-level overview, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, but there are actually 3 levels of conformance: single A, double A, and triple A. So that's A, AA, and AAA. And that comes down to the priority, whether or not something's a high level, medium level, or a low priority. Now, to meet UK government recommended standards, it's AA standard. So that means you have to consider all of the A success criteria and all AA. And AAA, you may be meeting that already, and that's a nice to have, and that's good. And that's a good solid standard to achieve anyway. And broken down into a little bit more detail, you've got 13 guidelines and 78 success criteria. So that's basically 78 checkpoints on every single web page. And in some organizations, that can be impossible to do, unless you've got like automated tools, and you've got a lot of testers to be able to check or test every single web page. However, the best possible approach would probably to take a range of templates that you use on a web page, or the starting point then. Take a range of templates and then a subset of pages on your website. So it could be 25, it could be 30, seems to be the magic number basically. But as long as it consists of the wide range of features that you have on your web page, and then obviously the best practice would be to make those as accessible as possible and to reuse those components elsewhere on the web page. So that's the way to sort of assess and to try and assess correctly and try and manage that process with regards to accessibility anyway. So what types of access issues do you need to take into consideration? So there's physically impaired users or cognitively challenged users, somebody with a hearing difficulty or maybe deaf, and also those that may be visually impaired as well. So we're going to look at those in a little bit more detail now, with regards to the assistive technologies. You know, what are there out there in the market at the moment? So we've got a range of desktop technologies. VoiceOver you may have heard of on a Mac device. Also you've got JAWS, which is on the Windows, and that's a screen reader software for users that may be blind or visually impaired. And also you've got NVDA, which is a freeware, again, assistive technology for blind users. And also switch control or keyboard only access. I mean, keyboard, believe it or not, is a form of assistive technology. So some users that may be physically disabled may use a keyboard alone if they can't use a mouse. And similarly, switch control is similar again for those with which is more severely physically disabled, I would say, which replicates or mimics a keyboard command to be able to tab through pages. We're going to go into that in a little bit more detail anyway. Also speech to text or Dragon, naturally speaking, which is the most popular sort of software out there on the market. And that basically allows a user to verbally command the computer and navigate their way around it. So instead of using a mouse or instead of using a keyboard, then you would verbally command your way around the computer saying click link or click button to navigate as well. And I've got a quick demonstration of one of our team members, Rebecca, demonstrating that software shortly as well. Also zoom text or magnification, and it is what it says basically on the tin. It's basically magnifying content. So if somebody has low vision or is partially sighted, then they're able to magnify that content on screen as well. Similarly, on a mobile device for both Android and iOS, we've got a range of assistive technologies here, ranging from VoiceOver, which is on an iOS device, and that is a built-in screen reader. And also we've got TalkBack on an Android device, which is again a built-in screen reader on Android devices. And we've got another range of software packages available or assistive technologies built into mobiles also. So for those with a physical disability, they may use Dragon, naturally speaking, as I mentioned earlier, and that would basically allow a user such as Rebecca, you can see her on screen here now, and she's one of our team leaders, and she would navigate using Dragon, naturally speaking, and also use sometimes the mouse as well. She'd probably revert to Dragon if she gets tired when navigating an application. She may then revert to keyboard, and there's a few things that you need to consider when navigating a web page with regards to keyboard. And it's important to see which element has focus. So when you're tabbing through a web page, you want to clearly see where you are. So that's usually like an outline or a border around each element that has focus. And if you can access something with the mouse, you should be able to navigate to that area and select it with the keyboard as well. Importantly, for those that may just use a keyboard, each of the elements should be able to be focused as well in a logical manner. So the way your eyes scan a page from top to bottom, left to right, you should be able to navigate in the same manner. So what you don't want to see is that something jumps to the right or jumps to the bottom of the page and then takes you back to the top. That's going to be a major issue for many users. So this is just a quick demo of Rebecca. It's only like a quick 30-second video of Rebecca navigating using keyboard only on the gov.uk webpage.
So for keyboard navigation, you'd press the tab key and then your focus would appear then on the screen. Highlighting will appear around the element that your focus is on, so you know where you are as you're going through the page. You continue pressing the tab key to be able to get through elements, and then you press enter then to be able to action it. By the use of the tab key, the enter key and the space bar, you should be able to action and get focus onto all elements that are actionable on the page. Yeah, this is how we use keyboard navigation.
Okay, so that's just a quick demo there of navigating using keyboard alone. And also, like I mentioned, drag and voice activation is another form or method that Rebecca navigates. And she would basically say the word click box or click link or click button, and that would activate, similarly to what we can see here on screen. It sort of appears with numbered tags, the green and yellow tags, ranging from however many sort of links or buttons you can see visually on screen, actually. So users can say click link, and then up would pop up, the numbered tags you can see here from home, about us, services, careers, and contact us. So whatever's visually presented to the user on the screen, that's what should actually be tagged. And this is just a quick demo of Rebecca navigating using voice activation, again on the gov.uk webpage.
Today I shall be showing how voice activation works. So the software works by the user giving commands, and then the software will then respond by doing what you've asked it to do. Wake up, click link, page down, click link, page down, click link, go to top, box, click box, benefits, press enter, go to sleep. So as you saw, I could get my focus into a form field and then dictate into it, and then say press enter to do a search. This is how you use voice activation software.
Okay, so that's just a quick example of navigation on the gov.uk webpage using Dragon. Also, there may be, potential issues, the way you've the way you've designed or developed a web page for cognitively challenged users as well. And that could be, users with short-term memory. It could be the way the font has actually been designed as well. Also, the way that you've written the copy on the web page, it could be an issue with plain English that's been used as well. Similarly, there could be, a user's reading age may be lower. And this is not just for users that may be cognitively challenged, because on average, a user that may be deaf, that's first language BSL or British Sign Language, probably has an average reading age of around 8 years of age. So that's something that you need to take into consideration, that the reading age of an individual may be lower, but it does depend on, what your target audience is. Obviously, if you're developing content for something like the Telegraph, it's going to involve words that's going to be harder to understand than CBeebies, for example, web page. So it is developed for, you should consider for your target audience. Things like animation that's moving, that can distract users as well, users with cognitive impairments. But the page layout can be confusing. And like I mentioned, the font style could actually impact users with dyslexia. If you've got things in all uppercase, or if you've got italics, that users find that a lot harder to retain the information, and also to be able to read the content as well, especially if it's in larger paragraphs of information. Also, for users with hearing impaired that may be first language BSL, they may need alternatives for multimedia or sort of like video with important speech or sound. And something like the closed caption should be available, similar to what you would see on subtitles on TV, but also, closed captioning is where there's important dialogue or who's actually speaking in the video as well. And that's important to get that across for users who may be deaf or hard of hearing. Also, for users with visual impairments, there's a wide range of visual impairments, ranging from users that may be colorblind, somebody may be partially sighted, or somebody may be blind as well. And it could be for low vision users that text may not be large enough to read. So one of the requirements under the web content guidelines is to resize content or zoom into content as well if you're on a mobile application. And also the contrast between text and background may not be sufficient enough. So those are some things to take that into consideration. When you use a screen reader software, for those who may be blind, the software itself can bring up lots of different dialog boxes, potentially, depending on the software you use. Like shortcut key commands can be used to actually present the dialogue, to be able to navigate a web page quicker. So as long as the web page has been designed with accessibility in mind, users may reveal things like headings that are usually sort of visually represented on the page, and images that should have alt text, and that could be similarly represented on a mobile offering as well, using a mobile screen reader. So some top tips here. So using image alt text appropriately. So for example, if images are present, to have alt text to present to a screen reader user, if the image conveys important information, that is. And also for links, don't use links like click here or more or find out more. They can be problematic for blind users. Ensuring the headings are descriptive and introduce content correctly, and also that they're programmatically marked up. So in other words, the developers need to mark up the headings in the code to make sure that they're in a logical hierarchy. Using simple language, like I mentioned earlier, for those who are cognitively challenged, that have a lower reading ability, or those who may be deaf, or those whose first language may not be English, to make sure that that is as simple as possible and easily understood. Expanding acronyms, for example, in the first instance of use on the page. And consider using illustrations to break up content or help clarify meaning as well. I mentioned about color contrast. For low vision or partially sighted users as well. So color contrast has a requirement under the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and the recommendation is to have contrast of a certain ratio, which is 4.5 to 1 color contrast ratio. And so these are the types of things that are within the guidelines. So these high level tips here, you'll probably find them all within the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And what we've done within DAC is we've developed a checklist, and this checklist, well, actually, you can receive this from us if you'd like, and we can send this out. It's not going to cost anything for anybody, and it gives you more of a high level breakdown of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines to make it more easily understandable. And that we can send this out to you after the training today, the presentation, whoever requires that. So I'm just going to pass across to Tammy and Pete now. And Tammy and Pete are both from Lloyds Banking Group, and they're going to just present on the way that we've worked with them over the number of years, and what they do to consider accessibility on, or best practices on their digital applications as well. So Tammy or Pete, I'm going to pass across to you.
Thanks, Gavin. Hi, everyone. My name's Pete Johnson. Myself and Tammy Butler work for Lloyds Banking Group, and we are accessibility and vulnerability managers. Our role is to ensure all customers receive fair treatment, which includes access to our banking services in a channel that suits them, and that's irrespective of their situation. But regarding accessibility, it plays a key part in access to our services, and as Gavin pointed out earlier, we work towards WCAG 2.1 level AA. But we don't just see this as a technical checklist to adhere to, and that's because every design decision that has the potential to include or exclude customers. So for us, it's more about inclusive design that ensures that the experiences are open to all people, regardless of age, disability, and background. So it benefits everybody. With regards to our relationship with DAC, so we work closely with Gavin and his team for a number of years now, and two of our main areas of focus are the design of future digital services or journeys. So DAC will support us with various programs of work to embed inclusive design and accessibility from the offset, and then they will always come back and revisit what's been built before it goes live to ensure what they've set out at the start has actually been delivered at the end, and picking up any small bugs along the way to ensure what goes out to our customers is fully accessible. And then the second key focus is, well, what's live today and how accessible is it? So we spent a lot of our time auditing our banking journeys. So any customer who is registered for online banking and they service their account in the mobile or web application. So DAC played a real key part in this for us. So we worked very closely with reporting audits back to our leadership and the relevant developers to get them fixed. So the screen you can see in front of you now are just some examples of some small changes that we've made to embed accessibility within the digital channel. So we agreed an audit policy. So all journeys across the digital servicing channel are audited by DAC at least annually, if not more frequently. The benefit of this is it allows us to prioritize key journeys with the largest customer volumes, which also have the biggest impact. With regards to changes that journeys that the bank delivers as well. So we kind of embedded an accessibility go live checklist as well. So it ensures that any change that's going through the bank has to adhere to WCAG 2.1 level AA. And that is assessed against every other risk that we have. So it means that if there's any bugs or defects before it's gone live, we're able to assess them against the severity called out by Gavin and the team. And then we look to work with the relevant stakeholders to fix the issue before it goes live. We've also agreed some accessibility champions as well. So, it's a huge task, and we kind of need to ensure that we've got the most coverage across the product areas and the labs who build our services and journeys. So the accessibility champs help us embed accessibility within the lab. They are a key contact point for ourselves in the customer vulnerability team. It can avoid defects as well, because we do encourage to build accessibly from the start and have it see it as a real, it must have, rather than using it as a checklist towards the end of the build. And also it helps us resolve issues more quickly as well. And then in terms of ongoing support, so Gavin and team, at least a minimum of 1 day per week, per month, will spend the whole day talking to stakeholders across the bank who need some help with maybe some technical issues around accessibility, and they need Gavin to talk to them about what they could do differently to make the defects go away or more accessible. The reason we've done this is it results in fewer issues with defects, and ensures that customers have got a fully accessible journey. We can get it fixed with getting that technical support from the get-go. Any questions at this point, or are we moving straight through to the next slide? No. Okay. So in terms of the second point then, so what do we do around auditing our existing journey? So I'll probably call out that I suppose over the last 12 months, DAC have audited well over 200 journeys and spent at least 180 hours of time supporting the bank in various calls, meetings, and drop-in clinics as well. So there's a lot of time and effort being spent by the group and DAC. But when we look at conducting an audit, so we will use customers' servicing account journeys as the baseline for what we audit. We start off with the highest volumes to ensure that they're the ones we fix first if we find any defects, and then in terms of the criteria, we will go across the banking app and the website journeys as well to ensure we've got that maximum coverage. And a real key thing for ourselves is the feedback we get from DAC, because the testers have various impairments. It gives us some real tangible information that we can go back to the teams to say, this has come from a colleague who is blind, for example, and because it's not been labelled up correctly, they don't know what they're looking at. So it gives them a real customer understanding as to what the problem is, rather than just a technical piece of feedback. DAC will also complete an audit with a mix of automated and manual testing. So it's not just things that are picked up automatically. It's something that you'll have to test for, like tabbing or alt text, for example. And they will also use a range of adaptive technologies as well. So as Gavin mentioned before, that just ensures that all scenarios are catered for when an audit is undertaken. And then we look at the scope of how we audit. So we have internal catalogue of procedures and journeys. So we will provide DAC with a full list of journeys that they can go then away and audit over a set period of time. Then once the audit has been completed, we will get the results. So we're provided with a really comprehensive report, which contains screenshots of every failure or defect that has come through all the journeys that have been audited. It also includes the solution to resolve the defect, which comes in really handy as well. But we do now get a very simplified Excel document, which helps us ultimately just pass the high level defects across, so we can share with the labs and the developers straight away how many defects they may have and what they need to do to fix it. But then it also supports prioritization as well. So DAC will call out where we have showstoppers. So a showstopper in our world is where a defect has been so severe it's stopped a customer being able to complete the journey in the channel of their choice. So they're the ones we would really focus on first to get fixed, and that's how we'll highlight it to our leadership team as well. So when we've had the results, we will facilitate discussions with our accessibility champs, as mentioned before. They will then cascade the results and work with us to the lab product owners and the developers via internal screens to ensure that we can get regular live updates as to whether any of the defects have been fixed or by when. And then we will also have regular touch points with accessibility champions to discuss any defects, blockers, or technical support required. And then regarding technical support, so DAC do have calls on a regular basis upon request where developers have got some defects that they want to discuss where potentially they're very technical and they may be a bit stuck as to how to overcome the issue. So the team over at DAC will help us understand how to fix the issue and then test it afterwards as well if need be to make sure it's worked. And again, that can be done via a monthly drop-in clinic or ad hoc if it's quite important. And then for ourselves, what's really key is that we can evidence to the bank that actually we've got a plan. So we've got numbers of defects, and then we can report monthly on the volumes and whether the numbers have gone down as a result of our intervention, and constant contact with the developers and labs as well. Ultimately, to reduce the defects to zero. That's the main goal. And that's the end of my little speech. Any questions? Or
I think we're gonna keep the questions for later on anyway,
okay.
Pete. But thanks very much for that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go on to Mike Taylor now anyway, and Mike's gonna give a quick demonstration of using a screen reader software on a live website. Hopefully everything will go smoothly. Nothing ever goes to plan with regards to live demonstrations. But yeah, Mike's a bit of an expert at this, so hopefully be able to take over and just explain a little bit about a screen reader software first of all, and then also how he would navigate and the likely sort of problems that he would look out for as well. And the majority of these issues that Mike's going to bring up, if any, will all be mapped to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines when producing a report, for example. And that's what Pete was just explaining there within the Lloyds Banking Group, because they'd receive a report of the issues and then a technical code solution, basically, that we would provide from within DAC. So, Mike, are you able to share your screen and then just to give a quick demonstration and an overview of what a screen readers are and what potential issues that you may come across?
Yeah, that's fine. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Mike Taylor, and I'm one of the Senior Accessibility Analysts and Comms and Training Manager for the Digital Accessibility Centre, or DAC. And what I'm going to do first is I'll just share my screen with you. Initially, you'll just see my Zoom window, and this will just give you a little overview of what I'm going to cover in the next 20 minutes. So I'm just going to start by sharing the screen now. And I'm going to share the audio as well, so you should get some audio output from the screen reader.
Started screen share. Alert, you are viewing a screen. Alert, you have stopped Gavin Evans screen share.
Okay, so
Alert,
so that is JAWS. Now, JAWS stands for Job Access with Speech, and JAWS is one of the commercially available screen reading software packages for Windows. Now, the chances are that anyone accessing this meeting, you'll either access it through a smartphone or a laptop device. So you're either going to have Windows, Chromebook, iOS, Mac, or an Android device. There's obviously other packages out there, but I'm covering the main ones at the moment. All of those packages, all of those platforms, that I've just listed, will have a suite of accessibility features, but they will have a screen reader built in. Now, JAWS, as I said, is commercially available, and when we refer to screen reading software, it's software that will read on screen So it'll read the content which appears on screen, and it'll announce that through synthetic voice. And that will include everything from on-screen notifications, any alerts that pop up, right through to navigating the web. And for my own background, I'm totally blind, so I rely fully on the screen reading software, both professionally and on a personal level. So I've mentioned JAWS, and you can also have Windows Narrator, which is that comes with all operating versions of Windows, from Windows I think 7 or 8, and it obviously covers Windows 10 and future versions. For Mac, you've got VoiceOver, and VoiceOver will cover all Apple products. So if you've got the Mac, I've got a Mac as well, and if you've got the iPhone, the iPad, etc., it'll even work on the watch. So the VoiceOver will work on all Apple products. Android, it does depend with Android on the model of device and version of Android that you're running, but it will use TalkBack, which is the main screen reader for Android users. But you've also got Voice Assist as well. So again, it will depend a little bit for Android what you've got. For Chromebook users, you've got ChromeVox. So again, this gives you an idea of the amount of platforms that screen reading software can be available on. So what I'm going to do now is switch screens to a website that I've got running here. And what I will say here, and I want to make this clear at the start of this little demo, is that this isn't a name or shame exercise. This is purely for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to switch screens now.
Alt tab, online food shopping, vertical bar, Alt space, context menu, Sys X, leaving menus.
So I'm just going to maximize the screen, make sure that you can see it.
Alt tab, Alt shift tab, online food shopping, vertical bar, Iceland groceries dash Google Chrome, online food shopping, vertical bar, Iceland groceries, delivery charges £2.
I'm just going to pause JAWS there.
Online food.
And I'm just going to get JAWS to read just the date and time here, just to make sure it's, I've slowed it down quite a bit, but if people need it slowing down even more, I can do that. So just output some audio from JAWS.
1350. 14 June 2021. 14 June 2021.
So that's the speed that I've got it at now. By all means, feel free to shout out if you need that slowing down. Otherwise, I'll leave it at that speed. So to give you an idea then of how we navigate, on a touchscreen device, you would use a series of gestures.
Alert, read one as
Sorry, as I said, JAWS will read all sorts of notifications, including when people join and leave a meeting. That's just one of its screen readers will do that. That's its job. But I'll try and silence that when it comes in. So on a touchscreen device,
Alert.
You'll have a series of gestures which users can use to navigate content on an iOS or an Android device, and users will interact with that content using a series of touch gestures to do what I'm going to do here on a keyboard. So what I'm going to do is start by using the up and down cursor keys. So I'm just going to put my focus at the top of the screen here.
Online food shopping, vertical bar, Iceland groceries.
And I'm just going to start by pressing the down cursor key.
Blank. We use cookies to give you the best experience. If you agree to link our use of cookies, please continue to use our site.
And I'm going to carry on pressing the down cursor key.
Blank. Link graphic void left parent 0 right parent. Graphic verified. Graphic verified. Unlabeled graphic to get missing image descriptions. Open the context menu. Graphic P. Same page link skip to main content. List of 3 items. Link store finder. Link help. Link register.
And if I now press the up cursor key.
Link help. Link store finder. List of 3 items. Same page link skip to main content. Graphic P. Unlabeled graphic to get missing image descriptions. Open the context menu. Graphic verified. Graphic verified. Link graphic void left parent 0 right parent. Blank. Please continue to use our site. Link our use of cookies. We use cookies to blank. Online food shopping.
And I'm just going to pause that there just because time is obviously precious, so I won't go through the whole thing. But as you can see, if we navigate down the page using the down cursor key and then up the page using the up cursor key, will navigate everything in the page. So anything that can be selectable, such as a link, a button, anything that can be interacted with, such as a search field, for example, we'll identify that with a screen reading package, such as JAWS, which I've got running here. And again, what I'm showing you here will apply to all screen readers on other platforms as well. It just, the way that you go about it may differ slightly, but the concept is the same. So if we navigate using the cursor keys, we'll also come across items that aren't selectable. So links, buttons, input fields, we'll come across those. As you heard, JAWS already announced blank. That's fine, that is intentional, because when we use the cursor keys, JAWS will read everything, including paragraph text and paragraph spacing as well. So it's a way that we can read absolutely everything in the page. So what I'm going to do now is just tab through a little bit. So if I tab forward.
Tab, all use of cookies link. Tab, void left parent 0 right parent link graphic. Tab, skip domain content same page link. Tab, data region, store find the link, locate stores. Tab, help link, contact us. Tab, register link. Tab, sign in, link.
And if I shift tab.
Shift tab, register link. Shift tab, help link, contact us. Shift tab, store find the link, locate stores. Shift tab, skip domain content same page link.
So if we tab forward through the page and then shift tab backwards through the page, what we're doing in this method of navigating is just navigating through all the items that are selectable. So any paragraph text, any spaces in between paragraphs that we would have heard JAWS announce with the cursor keys, that will be skipped over. And the reason that is because when we tab forward or shift tab backwards, we're just navigating from one selectable item to another. So if you're ever in the process of using a screen reader and you're wondering why the software didn't announce standard blocks of text and you're just tabbing through the page, that would be why. It's because you're just navigating from one item that can be selected to the next item that can be selected. What I've shown you so far is navigating in context. That's the terminology that we use for this. And when we navigate in context, we're reviewing the page as you can see it in front of you on the screen here. I'm not using any special shortcuts, as it were. If we navigate out of context, and this refers to what Gavin mentioned a little while ago about dialog boxes, because when we navigate out of context, we can filter the page by element type. So that means that we can navigate by a specific type of item. We can skim read the page. Is probably the best way of explaining it. So what I'm going to do now is bring up a list of, I'm going to bring up a list of links first of all, and then I'll dismiss the cookie message because I know visually that can get in the way. So if I press insert and F7.
Links list dialog, links list view, skip domain content 3 of 61. To move to items, use the arrow keys.
So JAWS told us how many links it's identified. And again, this is navigating out of context now. And it's out of context because I've literally filtered the page just by links. So all you have here is a list of all the links on the screen. And I can navigate to these by pressing the up and down cursor keys. I could also press the first letter of the corresponding link that I wanted to go to. This is why link text, so a clear indication of what the link will lead to. That's why this is really important, so that users can identify the content regardless of how they navigate, and that will apply to everything that we test for. So, for example, if I just go from the top here, so I've got
use of cookies,
and if I cursor down,
void left parent 0 right parent.
Now, having looked at this before, I know that this is the dismiss cookie message link, but the announcement of
void left parent 0 right parent,
it's ambiguous because users wouldn't be aware of what that relates to. I'm just going to dismiss this by pressing enter.
Enter. Void left parent 0 right parent link graph alert Helen Foster. Online food shopping vertical bar Iceland groceries graphic verified.
Okay, and what's happened there is that we've gone into the main view again. So I'm in context, and I think the cookie message has now been dismissed. I'll just check that.
Online food shopping vertical bar Iceland groceries. Graphic verified. Graphic verified. Unlabeled graphic to get missing image descriptions. Open the graphic. Same list of 3
Yep. Okay. So what I did there was just cursor down a couple of times quickly, just to make sure that the cookie message has gone. So when we check a web page, indeed when we navigate a web page, things like link text are really important so that users will know what the link will lead to. And again, just to show you that,
Jaws.
I've got the links list again, and I'm just going to cursor down a little bit.
Sign in. Iceland Foods. 0. 0. Checkout securely. Menu. Free delivery. Offers. Everyday essentials. Summer. Hot buys. Mealtime inspiration. Shop now.
So some of these links have a good descriptive link text, such as
Shop now. Mealtime inspiration. Hot buys.
However, if we go up a little bit, so I'm going to cursor up.
Offers. Free delivery. Menu. Checkout securely. 0. 0.
So these 0 links. Now, again, I can review this in context and figure out that this relates to the basket. But again, out of context, this wouldn't be clear to users because it just says 0. And I'm just going to go into this a little bit.
Tab. Move to link button. Space. Link.
So I'll cursor up.
0 is a search.
And I'll cursor back down again.
Search button. Reserve your delivery. Book delivery. £0. Link collapsed. 0. Close mini basket button.
So this, I can tell that this relates to the mini basket. But again, this comes back to how important link texts are. Another way that we can navigate the web page is by headings. And headings are really important. Currently, 70% of blind users, and I'm one of them, will navigate a page initially by headings. And the reason that is because it's a really quick way that we can get from one part of the page to the other. We all obviously use our mobile devices and tablets a lot more these days, and even on a mobile device, I'll navigate a page through headings really quickly. It's just one of the best ways to get around a web page. So I'm going to bring up the headings list here.
Headings list view. Free next day delivery : 3. Alert.
And if I start from the top of the page,
Home.
So again, I've gone from in context to out of context navigation. And the first heading we have here is
Free next day delivery : 3.
And if I cursor down,
join thousands of new customers shopping online : 3. Free next day delivery : 3. We're number 1 : 3. Big brands : 3.
And if I wanted to go to any particular heading in the page, I can press enter on this.
Enter for customer satisfaction for the 2nd year running star.
And that will take us to the specific section within the page. And I can cursor down. I can cursor down then to read the information that relates to that section. There are other ways that we can get around headings as well. I can just press H on the keyboard. So again, to give you an idea of how that sounds, if I just press H now.
Free next day delivery heading level 3. Join thousands of new customers shopping online heading level 3. Free next day delivery heading level 3. We're number 1 heading level 3.
And if I cursor down.
Blank. For customer satisfaction for the 2nd year running star. Blank. Heading level 3 big brands. Blank. Now
Gavin mentioned alt text for graphics a little while ago, and I'm just going to show you a list of graphics in the page here.
JAWS version 2. Hero to get missing image descriptions. Open the context menu. Hero carousel. Delivery. Over 100 lines to choose from. Frozen category. Fresh category. Drinks category. Fresh fruit and veg market category. Food cupboard category. Everyday essentials category. Bakery category. Household category.
So we get the idea. A lot of these images are really clear, actually. You know, it says
bakery category, household category, toilet roll, kitchen roll and tissues, chocolate and sweets category, everyday low prices.
However, the top couple of images, so if I just go from the top of the screen here.
Home to get missing image descriptions, open the context menu. Hero carousel, delivery.
So the hero carousel and the first item, it's a prompt actually that says to get missing image descriptions.
Hero carousel.
I'll just get Jules to repeat that actually.
To get missing image descriptions, open the context menu.
Now, although that's a prompt, again, it's ambiguous. So I would flag that from a test point of view.
Escape.
I'm just going to hit a keyboard command here and just see where we are for time.
14:02.
There we go. It's a useful
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah, that's really good, actually, Mike.
Yeah.
Gives the participants a really good idea of how you would navigate as well. I mean, in relation, from this website to others, how would you say this fares? Does it fare sort of relatively good for you? Or do you use Iceland? Is that why you've used this website, or?
I haven't used it for a while, actually. I mean, retail is not. I should say again, not all retail is problematic, but no, there is no perfect website. So in general, I mean, if I was looking at this homepage, I would be able to get from A to B with it. If I wanted to sign in, for example, I don't have an account, but I could bring up the links list.
JAWS version.
And if I just press S for sign in,
store find, sign in,
and I press enter on that, and that will of course take me to the sign in screen. So I mean, from a user point of view, it's actually, I would say, I'd say it's pretty good in terms of the user aspect. You can probably do what you need to do with this.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things I can see there, yeah, it's easy to get it around, but for considering other user groups as well, especially for colorblind users, or even for cognitively challenged users, where I mentioned about moving animation. I can see moving animation on the page, and the color contrast to some text with the background is quite low, so that users would potentially have an issue there. So it's not just, it's about considering all user groups at the end of the day. But that's absolutely fantastic, Mike. And I'm sure that gives the participants a really good idea of how a screen reader user works, and what to look out for as well. So thanks very much for that. And I just wanted to throw it back to Mark now, actually, and to Gemma. We've concluded our presentation. Just wondered if there was any questions, really, from anyone on the call.
Great, thank you, Gavin and Mike, and Tommy and Peter, and Rebecca, obviously. Right, I know there's a few questions coming. I know you've noticed you've answered one directly there, Gavin, to Shipler.
Yeah.
There was one question I had slightly before Shipler. Let's maybe dig it out here.
Is it to do with the text resizing tool?
The one I got here now then is it okay to use a plug-in accessibility tool which can, for example, increase text size or read out text, etc., or should accessibility be built in throughout the website's construction by choosing accessible colors, contrast, etc.? So I think we covered a bit of it there, but maybe you can answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, we would always recommend to build in accessibility into the website itself, from the design and also the development from a code level, because it depends on the plugin, I suppose. Does it resize all content? Does it change colors on there as well, and sufficiently across all pages, to meet the color contrast requirement? But yeah, definitely I would say to build in accessibility into the design in the first instance, because yeah, you can't guarantee that you're always gonna that service is going to be up and running, I suppose, if there's something goes down. Yeah, I would always recommend to build that into the web page, into the website construction in the first place. It's a lot more robust, and also a user can, depending on the browser that they're using, they should be able to resize content as well, using Control and plus or Command and plus, or or another method online. And it's it's what users tend to use at the end of the day. I'm not to say that these plugins aren't good, because they are good, and they will assist users, especially users, I would say, that have low literacy, because sometimes they would be able to, like you mentioned, read the text out loud as well. that they may not actually have a screen reader. So they do help a vast majority of user groups, I would say, but definitely consider the website right from the outset, if you possibly can, from the design stage. And that's why we've assisted, Lloyds Banking Group when Pete was mentioning about the accessibility drop-in clinics, because what we do is we review designs, and we have like 6 or 7 meetings in one particular day with designers, and then just to review designs that they're thinking of changing, and then that before that goes into build really, and that's I suppose the Lloyds have the luxury of having so many designers on board that and been able to involve an accessibility company in those designs in the drop-in clinics. But the checklist, like I mentioned earlier, that gives you a good idea, of what you need to do to consider accessibility into your web pages. And also the guidelines are there, the web content accessibility guidelines. The only trouble is they're about 600 pages of W3C's web content guidelines. So the checklist is probably a 36-page document that I've got, or even in a spreadsheet design as well, that may assist you.
I've got a question for Peter of Lloyds Banking Group, really, about the champions that you've kind of adopted since working with DAC. How has that been, Peter, in kind of cascading what you and Tammy do kind of on a daily basis, maybe to a wider members of the group?
Yeah, it's been received really positively, I think, because of the breadth of the different labs that have build journeys for the bank. It's very difficult to get across everybody. So to have some like-minded individuals who can sort of carry the torch, if you like, for accessibility and sort of work with us to help build and improve the culture, because I think, like I said earlier, it's more than just a checklist. And for me, it's about improving, giving the customer the best experience possible. So it's thinking, wider than just checklist, and making sure, from a hearts and minds perspective, people understand the impact of not having accessibility in mind, because I've seen it firsthand, and it's very difficult, for a customer or anybody really to navigate a web page or a mobile app that's got broken features in it. So it's good to have the champs there to really sort of help us chase things up and really support us. So it's well worth doing for any businesses that require to reaching out to wider parts of that business.
So you mentioned, Peter, the showstopper, like that defect that would stop someone fulfilling the journey. How do those come up in your analytical research of services, or do they come in through kind of customer contact saying so forth?
Yeah, so it's a good point. I think it's a bit of internal terminology, but it's 100% supported by Gavin and DAC, because they will help us prioritize some of the defects by telling us how severe they are. So a showstopper, to give an example, if you had what we'd call a keyboard trap, so anyone who has to use a keyboard to navigate a web page, if the element is broken and they cannot continue using a tab feature, then that to me is to us as a showstopper, because we've stopped somebody fulfilling a journey online. So that's the showstopper element. So I think Gavin helps us now when we have an audit, will tell us how many of the defects they've found are showstoppers, so we can say you need to fix these ones first, because that's impacting, people the most severely.
Yeah. Okay, just turning to my colleagues Gemma and Mike. Are there any more questions that have come in there that I've missed, guys? Doesn't look as if there are.
No, I think we're all good.
Is there? Oh no, there's a comment here from Louise Judge, said that as a dyslexic, I often find many of the accessibility features for visually impaired users very helpful, as font size, color, and contrast are amendable. So that's a comment. So again, as well as questions, you're more than welcome to add your comments into the chat box of best practice or things that work well for you as an accessibility user. Well, I think that's been brilliant. Everybody involved today. I can't thank you enough, Gavin, Mike, Rebecca, Tammy, and Peter. Really, really informative and really great as well to see the kind of the practical demonstrations. I think that's something that's been really helpful for me, anyways. Is watching the software being used and the functionality behind that. Really, that has been fantastic. So many thanks to you for delivering the session for us today. It's been really informative and really good. Thank you very much indeed. Also, thanks to all the attendees for joining us. And you know, if you can just take a minute to review the session on Menti, there's a link there in the chat box. Please do. Also, if you found today interesting and useful, there's a week. Today's the first day of a week-long schedule of events with some fantastic kind of options around digital for you to tune into and learn more. Really, like today, very hands-on, practical, even though in a virtual environment. I think it's been fantastically delivered. And finally, then I'd like you to. Especially for those in Wales, the audience from Wales, have a look at the work that the Wales Co-operative Centre is doing, and probably especially Digital Communities Wales, which is a national programme that Welsh Government Fund and the Wales Co-op Centre deliver. You know, there's a good potential that that programme will be able to offer some support to you if you haven't heard of it or engaged with it in the past. So have a look there. And from me, you know, that's all. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Diolch yn galon i chi gyd o fynychu heddi, bod yn sesiwn diddorol iawn. Many thanks to you all, and we'll call it a day there. Thank you very much indeed.